It's Wednesday, November 2nd, 2022. Um, it's it's just past the 21st Sunday after Pentecost and leading into the 22nd Sunday. So it's that Wednesday, for WED. So I am watching last night. They had on a story which I listened to very intently about an Italian exchange student um, who was separated from the rest, who was studying here in the United States. And he had an attorney or a lawyer. And I heard the lawyer speak at 6 p.m. on Channel 7 Eyewitness News. The lawyer specifically stated that the EF Academy, it was unlawful for them. So I'm going to play his exact words since he's a studious professional with credential, for the way that he states for the camera about the unlawfulness of what happened with this Italian Claudio, or Claudius, and how his situation was handled. He committed suicide. Um, so the story explains on the television. But I'm going to start with today. They mentioned at TCS New York City, they're having this thing about this marathon. I've started running earlier this week, trying to build back up my stamina and movement, and doing pretty much like if I was in an aircraft, they usually do systems check. So I'm just at this point, I'm doing a systems check mentally and a very methodical systems check. I mean, I don't know how else to explain it. I don't know who else goes through systems checks before you're allowed to take off. So, um, pilot just seems like the correct word or construct of an ideal in this scenario or situation. So anyhow, they've got this marathon mention. They have this symbol that they're using, which I know in this time frame with the Toy Story, um, of terror, Pixar bit that they brought out, and there's a couple of key features that I've caught, with the humans interacting somehow with some of the storyline that's going on in New York for me. So I'm watching this 12 o'clock edition of the New York City Marathon, and they have the symbol. It's a red circle and a yellow circle, and then it's this integration between the two circles. And I know I've seen that in a private art collection that we have here. I also know my grandfather, again, Vienna, Venetian, Florentine, somewhere in Italia, and elsewhere. He was whatever in things that you keep quiet, but how do you send signals to your ancestors or your descendants if they should come into trouble and need some form of reference from the family direct? So this symbol, I mean, he has I've already featured it before. It's like space and time, it's calculations, it's his version of Leonardo da Vinci that he left for myself, my children, and or for myself and for Lewis. So I'm, um, keeping that in mind. And it's painted with this very symbol. No, they used to have MasterCard embossed on it. For this particular marathon, they took the letters away and they went back to the original symbol, which I have in a house painting by his hand. Um, and so there's that. Um, I don't know this TCS again. I'm watching for the integration of the art directors and things and how they're using their communicative voice and whatever. So I see they put up there how FDNY, how Commissioner Kavanaugh, what her professional position is, and how she's handling the sportsmanship between the firemen, which is EMS, I suppose, and NYPD. And then they have Commissioner Sewell get up, and NYPD apparently won the cup last time. And then her promotion to her NYPD not to let the cup go. So I'm just gonna put that up with no words of reference, just their actual actions in just documenting seeds of conversations that some whatever at Pentecost is important. I also, which I can't notate, but one of the elementary school children that were at field day events that I was in, I noticed today somebody attached her profile to my Facebook page. I noticed she has an NYU designation or whatever for Jonas. Um, no idea if that's part of the back problem that I'm having with their hospital. I have no idea how this is working. But there is some kind of, for field work, there is some kind of connection she has with that hospital. I've had a problem with that hospital just recently, along with some of the other hospitals on Long Island. So I don't know if it's across the board, this withholding of care, which should be illegal since I've done nothing wrong, especially since I was a child. But here we are. Um, and so I don't know if, I mean, we went to elementary school together. I don't know how she got onto a NYU like path, and yet for myself, college wasn't even spoken of in elementary school, middle school, or high school. And interestingly enough, when the one Big Bird conversation came up in my senior year when I crossed jurisdiction from Suffolk County into Queens County, that's when Big Bird conversation came up in whoever was there. I was not prepared for the college conversation because I thought school was to alert and teach one how to get into college and what it was all about, the paths to follow, the employment tracks. Same thing with joining Big Bird and where I might fit in that, whatever. But it reminds me very much, that conversation on that particular day, of um, just a special whatever understands at presidential level, that Big Bird conversation very much makes it feels like how Commissioner Sewell is speaking of, like, they already won some cup and I was not, whatever. Like, there was no, it was the same with the field day that I went to and then the diplomacy that I was graduating with. And neither one of them were very forthright and forthcoming, almost withholding all sorts of opportunity before I even had a chance. Now, interestingly enough, when Ian came, and he invited me, I was with Nicklaus, so there was a definite handoff of Nicklaus's girlfriend um, into a respectful meeting with Ian, where the award certificate was given, and whoever was in that room, which I didn't know. Ian really was the only one that I can remember who made an effort to come over to sit down next to me, and he was in charge of consortium, whatever that means. In somebody grew up in a shire. Again, I didn't mention I grew up in a glen, but I would think a consortium person and someone who got my beeper number, and I have no idea how he got my beeper number, would already know that I grew up in a glen. So I don't know why I would need to reiterate that. But anyhow, so he was the only person who really sat down and had a conversation with me, um, or took an interest in getting to know me. The rest of the room was very standoffish, whatever that means. I know it ties in somehow. I'm just not quite sure. I'm just not clear how it ties in. But here's what the marathon looks like, and then I'll go off to the professional lawyer who's scholared, who's speaking about this international person, and he's speaking of the law of the EF Academy and how, again, this segregation of this one person at the dormitory level, where they're separated from the rest of the. Well, I'll put up his exact words.
Counting down to Sunday's TCS New York City Marathon, and this year we are back to full capacity. Last year it was capped off, but this year 50,000 runners will run the course for the first time since the pandemic that we had those kind of numbers. Meanwhile, the NYPD taking every step to make sure it is run safely. Eyewitness News reporter Kimberly Richardson joined us from Central Park with the very latest. Kimberly, lots of excitement building over this race.
Oh, everybody is excited. It's going to be a great, and the weather.
Now, this is a race. They've been off to the races before I arrived, and this is symbolic of a New York City current race that's taking place. Since there are races and politics are not always whatever, but sometimes there's a message beyond what they're up to.
Weather this year, a little challenging for runners, but great for spectators. Just a few hours ago here at the finish, the ceremonial laying down of the blue line. Actually, tomorrow crews will begin putting down the official one. It is 4 inches wide. It goes through 300 intersections here in the city and across 5 bridges. It is the big build-up to Sunday, which the marathon is back in full force.
Now, I know what color I ran with field day, as do the other children that attended and that were taking notes. This blue line reference, need I remind everyone that at the Church of Pentecost, and there's a pentagon, that particular Episcopalian, whatever, being the King's Church, um, is whatever it is, and it doesn't have, I don't have words for it. I also went to a uniformed Catholic, it was a modified Catholic portion. And the presidents, the past presidential children, have always been some form of non-denominational churchgoers, for which I stayed very clear on that path. There was very few, respectful attendances at Catholic Mass, same as I did for when some of the children were going through their bar and bat mitzvahs, same as I attended very few of those in a very few time span, respectfully so. But the Sunday school has a very specific placement in how government is, how government's been run, how government still exists, and there's still attendees, and there's still family in the field.
It is a simple tradition that is simply marvelous and sets the tone as we head into Marathon Weekend here in New York City. Officials gathered at the finish line in Central Park for the annual painting of the Blue Line. The marker will help guide thousands of runners as they take part in the annual event that crisscrosses the 5 boroughs. A glimpse of what's ahead. This year, for the first time since 2019, things will look and feel like business as usual. Because of the pandemic, the race was canceled in 2020 and then scaled back last year. Organizers say Sunday it will be back to full capacity with an impressive 50,000 plus runners, including many international athletes.
Last year, we missed the borders being open by one day. So it was the Monday after our marathon was when the borders opened up and we were able to have international athletes back. So they're back, they're excited. You're going to see lots of people.
That symbol right there is my family, one of my family's symbols from one of my grandparents. Whatever it stands for, whatever it means, I'm sure somebody at Pentagon level knows of important things. And however the lands are ruled over between the drug lord, the warlord, the landlord, and then the oh good lord. Same school that had the field day was the same school who gave me the papers with the word God on them and asked for a signature.
People running around, lots of languages being spoken throughout the city streets.
The NYPD says security will yet again be a top priority, include things the public will and will not see. Watching the marathon, one of the city's high points, is no doubt a must-do. FDNY Commissioner Laura Kavanaugh, who normally runs the race, today giving Police Commissioner Keishant Sewell a little friendly, competitive jab.
And my other tradition is I usually give the police commissioner a hard time because our teams compete in the marathon every year. But this year I will just say, good luck, Keishant.
Not so fast.
I am counting on the NYPD running club to hold on to the Mayor's Cup by defeating the squad from the FDNY again this year.
Oh, I am not touching that one. Back here live, this is the finish. This is going down right now. These stickers on the ground here, that ceremonial painting of the blue line, that's actually under here. Again, crews will start the official line on tomorrow night. One thing that police do want to remind everybody any day here in New York City, including on Sunday, it is illegal to fly a drone. They say if they catch you with one, they will issue a summons and confiscate it. For now, we're live at the finish. Kimberly Richardson, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
Thank you, Kimberly. TCS New York City Marathon is this.
Now on Tuesday, November 1st, 2022, which just happens to be 11/1 for symbology of precinct whatever. Eyewitness News at 6 p.m. Had on this story where he actually, the lawyer dealing with this EF Academy, actually voices in the specific way that I needed to hear. Because again, as far as who writes the law, who enforces the law, and how is the law spoken about, I've been kept away from. So that makes my situation even more precarious.
And a half days, malnourished for 3.5 days, humiliated for 3.5 days.
Isolating minors is prohibited in the criminal justice system and not allowed in public schools. The family is now fighting for Claudio's law, which would hold private schools to the same statutory regulations. In a statement, EF says Mandia was in an unlocked student dorm room. At no time was he placed in solitary confinement without social interactions or access to other resources and facilities.
What's a more powerful lock? A piece of metal on the door or the mental lock? You are forbidden to leave.
While the family seeks damages in civil court, the Westchester District Attorney's Office confirms a criminal investigation is ongoing. In Thornwood, Marcus Solis, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
Well, a man has been found guilty tonight.
So that they showed last night. So it's star 1978. Star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza, its Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxy is broken, and its Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361. They also put up a very small bit of TikTok and something with China about stealing things, but only from that platform. I got that message. I'm kind of like, I'm not sure what to do with it at this point. I mean, I hear it, but I'm just like, I mean,